Hey guys, welcome to the next session on Oracle Source Suite 12c. So in this session, we'll continue to learn a little more about BPEL offered by Oracle Source Suite 12c. Today we'll look at a few things like DVMs, how do we access DVMs, and then we'll look at the exception handling that BPEL provides, inline exception handling, and we'll also look at something very, very important called fault management framework. So let us open the same BPEL that we have worked yesterday. So this is the one. So we did some kind of all orchestration yesterday. So this is what is orchestration like. You invoke one service after the other. So basically you'll invoke multiple services in an order to achieve your business functionality. So yesterday we have seen how we have invoked different things, and then we have seen how you can use the flow activity. If you have few things that can run in parallel, you can always do it. Okay, so let's look at some very common scenario called domain value maps. Okay, so the use case would be very simple, but this is one of the majorly used things, like literally any project would have. Okay, it's called DVM. It's very simple. Let's say one service might use a state short code and other service might use a state long code. Let's say it is Texas. So one service might accept values with a full word like Texas or California or whatever, and there might be another service which accepts the short codes like TX or CA. Okay, it happens, right? Just like some say dollars and some say USD. So when you have two different systems talking two different languages but actually mean the same thing, that is when you use DVMs. Okay, so DVM would be as simple, like it would be something like this. So you would have let's say it would be as simple as this, say Texas maps to TX. Okay, or if you wanted to make little complicated, let's say Texas, there is a state Texas in USA, and let's say there is a state Texas in say Canada, just a hypothetical situation. In that case, like what you would do is you would have a country and you would have a state long code and you would have a state short code. Okay, so you'd have something like this, like USA, Texas, and say TX. Maybe for Canada, Texas, you want to say Texas as, or the state short code is CT. Okay, for some reason. Okay, so your system 1 would talk this language, and let's say system 2 talks this language. So what you do in SOA is, see, SOA is all about manipulating all the messages, right? Like you invoke different systems in the language it talks, correct? So you have to transform everything. So in this case, you would have a simple map, something like this, a table. Okay, and what you would do is you will take these two, like your request would have the country value and the state value. So with these two, you will determine the state short code, and then you will pass it on to the next service so that the next service would understand it. Okay, because next service knows TX is Texas in USA. So that's a very simple concept. Okay, so let's see how we do it. It's very simple. We have a concept called domain value maps. Okay, so let me, so it would be here only DVM, or you can go to the gallery and see, and let me say it as state short code mappings. Okay, and then what is the domain name? So in our case, let's make it simple, let's put it simple. So in our case, let us have the state long code, and a sample value would be Texas, and state short code, a sample value would be TX. Okay, and then create it so that it gives you one line. You can add as many lines as possible. So I would say I would add 3 in the interest of time. So let's say California and say CA. I'm just trying to figure out what all are there because I cannot write everything, right? Okay, this is 1, and then we will use 40, then we will use 50. Okay. What is the problem? Oh, state is not the thing. Then what is it? Okay, it's state. It says state province. So we have California and Washington. Okay, let's give these two values and then say Washington, because we are using departments to get the state, right? And what is Washington? WA. Okay. You have to actually write all the values, like whatever you would be using in your two systems. But let's give these three values. And okay, so what does our response look like? So let's look at one of the samples that we have done yesterday, some of the sample requests. Okay, if you look at the final response, so my final response has a state here, right? Like WA. Oh, okay. Weather service is giving the short forms. Okay, let's say in our example, what we'll do is we'll convert short forms to long forms. Okay, it shouldn't matter. So just go here, or you can actually give it this way also, no problem. Like basically, you're mapping system A to system B. Okay, so when you are going from system A to B, you need to change California to CA. Whereas when you are going from system B to A, you will need to change CA to California. Okay, so this is a mapping sheet. How you want to use, you can define it in your BPEL. Okay, so looking at our request, when department ID is 30, we have the value as WA, right? So let's say our system 2 would accept only long codes, whereas we have short codes in our system. So how do we convert it? So, okay, first thing is you'll define the DVM, okay? And then the next step is in your transformation, okay, in your transformation or assign activity, doesn't matter. So where is the city? Here, sorry, state. This is state, right? I'm directly assigning it. So I get the short code here. I'm assigning the short code, but I want the long code. So how do I do it? So instead of direct mapping, what I do is you can search for DVM here. What happened? Why is it not coming? Okay, advanced expand, no, all clear. Say all pages and say now DVM. Why is it not coming? We don't have the namespace defined. Let me do one thing. I think there is some problem here. Actually, it should be in the components. For some reason, it is not coming up. I'm just creating a temporary. What happened? Okay, I look at why it is not happening. So instead of this, what we will do is we'll assign the value, then assign activity. Okay, so this one, in the current transformation, you're still putting the state short code. So let's use an assign activity. So assign transformation. And so I'm doing an assign activity. I would say assign long code. I'll see why it is not coming up. It has to be in the component palette, but for some reason it is not coming. That's okay. So in our output variable, like, see, where am I assigning? I'm assigning after my actual assignment, right? So my output variable already has literally everything that we have assigned yesterday. Only thing is, for the state code, you have a state short code. You want to make it state long code here. So how you do is right click and say expression, just like how we do it. And then, why are these not coming?
Ravi, is there anything like activation, something like that?
No, it automatically comes up. Why is it not coming? Let me open another project that I have been doing. Okay. So what I'll do is, since there is, for some reason it is missing, I'll have to find out, but let's not waste time here. So I'll tell you the concept. So you just drag and drop the DVM lookup value, okay? And then you will assign it to the target, whatever you want, okay? And when you double click on this, so see, you will see different things here. Like the DVM location is basically the file, okay? You have the file here. So if you see, it is under DVM slash, it is actually minimized here, and it is state short code dot DVM, right? That's all. And then what is the source column name? Okay, in this case,
Ravi, is it related to anything like MDS, like part of that one?
no. Like whatever we are doing, we are doing it in our local, right?
Local, okay.
Yeah, we haven't published it to MDS. I think for some reason only that project is not coming up. Might be some setting somewhere, but let me figure out later. But for now, let's learn the topic. So DVM state shortcode. What we'll do is we'll just copy paste this from here to the transformation file and see if it works. Otherwise, we'll say it. And in the source column value, okay. So what is the source column field name? In this case, okay, in our DVM, or let me take a printout of this, and then I'll show you how to define. Okay, so I have this one, and where is our DVM file? Here, right? Okay, so the first DVM location would be DVM underscore state shortcode mappings.dvm. Okay, and what is the source column value? In my case, I'm getting the short code, right? So my source column value would be state shortcode, which is the heading here. Okay, and then the source value would be the X path of this value, state, okay, which is under the location. And then what is the target column value you want? You want the state long code, right? So give the exact name that is there on the DVM file, state long code, and then default value. Okay, see, I mean, let's say here we have defined only 3. For some reason, a 4th value comes in. Okay, so right now we have only 50 states in USA. Okay, so we have 50 values, 50 rows in DVM file. Let's say some guy gives some other value which is not a valid state. So you would need a default value, right? Maybe usually the default values would be unknown, or say the entered value is wrong, or something like that. Basically kind of a error message. Okay, so this is how you define a DVM. Now in our case, state shortcode string. So let's define the DVM here. It is not coming, right? One last try. Okay, it doesn't come. Let us go to the other one. So double click on this. Okay, what is my DVM location? In single quotes, it would be DVM slash state short code mappings dot DVM. Okay, okay, I'm good. And then what is the source value? Source value would be source column name would be what? State short code, because this is what you're getting. And then what is the source value? Source value would be the XPath. I'm not doing it right now. XPath expression of state field. Okay, we'll determine it in a moment. And then what is the target column is state long code. Okay, and then default value, if you are entering something that is not there, I would say unknown. Okay, so whenever you get unknown, then you look at the request and then either put that value in the DVM, or you know that the record is wrong. I mean, you change it in the source. Okay, so this is the one. I'm just saying okay. Go to the source. Just copy the value here. Okay, and I'm putting it here in the, for the state. Okay, so where is my state mapping? Here is my state mapping. So let me first of all comment it out, the existing one. Okay, and this is my DVM. I'm just editing, just try to understand. Okay, so instead of this I would have something like this, and the value would be okay, this is the XPath for state, right? So just copy paste. So I would cut it here and put it here. Okay, and then SSL value of, you will have it inside state. Okay, I'm good. So you can remove this one, or maybe you can put it just for this. See, earlier what am I doing? Earlier my state is just, it is coming from the weather service state, right? Now what's happening? I am basically looking this DVM file for the state shortcode whose value is state coming from the weather service, and then I will change it to state long code. Okay, and let us try to compile it and see if it works, because we have defined the namespace. Okay, it should work 99%, but let's see. If it doesn't work, that is how you need to do it. So better you try it in your machine. Let's do it at 1.2. Usually even your DVM files would be in MDS, okay, because state long code to short code mapping would be there in like multiple services. So instead of defining it in each and every project, we usually put it in the MDS. So after you do it, you will have to publish it to MDS and then use it. But here we are directly using. If you publish it to MDS, instead of the hardcode path here like DVM slash, you would have something like aura MDS slash and then the path in the MDS. Okay, so let's see. Okay, it is deployed. Employee BPEL 1.2. So let's see if it works or not. Okay, my department is 30. Yep, it worked. Location, there you go, Washington. Okay, so it worked. Though the JDeveloper did not give me, I just edited the source file and it worked. See, earlier, what are we getting? We are getting WA, right? If you remember, we were getting Washington as WA. Okay, so what we have done, we have basically converted the state shortcode into long code. Okay, it looks very simple, and actually it is very simple. So basically you are changing the way a field is represented. Okay, and you usually change it because SAP has, let's say you are integrating from SAP to Salesforce. Let's say Salesforce has state shortcodes and country shortcodes, whereas SAP has all long codes. Okay, so you, as a middleware, like, you need to do all the transformation. That is where DVMs come into picture. Okay, so any questions in this? It's a simple concept, but very useful concept. Okay. So, yep. So if you don't have any questions, let's jump on to the next topic. One of the most important.
Ravi,
Yep. Yes,
just one
Shankar.
question. How do we in runtime, how do we change the value for DVM indirectly in the enterprise console?
Perfect. Yeah. Not in the console, but you have something called SOA Composer. You need to deploy during the domain creation. Okay, I think it is not deployed here. Let's see. What is my port? 7003. You have something called SOA Composer which you need to deploy. Okay, during the domain creation happens. It resides in your managed server. So you just go into the composer. Okay, so it is your managed server URL /SOA/composer, and then here you go into your project. Okay, employee BPEL 1 or 2. So this one, where is the DVM? One second. It should give you all the DVMs. Create session. Okay. Okay. Even domain value maps is checked. So in this composer, you actually edit, like, whatever files could be edited in the runtime, it shows up here. Okay. So you just open this one, and then you have state shortcode mappings, right? Okay. For some reason, let's say Washington name, I want to change it to, say, Washington changed runtime. Okay. And I say okay. And then you publish it. Okay. So without any, and I'll give some comments like checked in to show runtime changes. Okay. Without any change in the code, basically what I'm doing, what happened? Why did it not change today? My JDev is working crazy, man. Create session, and then you edit, say runtime. Okay. I validate it. Fine. What's happening? Come on. Create the session. Let me add a new row also. Say it as Florida. Okay. And then I save it. Then I publish it. Okay, I was not saving. Okay, fine. So I have changed Washington to Washington WA at runtime. Okay, so if I hit this, let's see if it changes or not. The value is 30. There you go, Washington underscore WA. Okay, so this is how you do. So all the, usually these values, like if you want to add a new value tomorrow, like you can just add it, you save it, and then publish it to the MDS. Sorry, publish it to SOA Infra. Okay.
Ravi, one quick question. So what exactly the difference between SOA Composer and Enterprise Manager?
Okay, SOA Composer is very, see, you look at the port itself. SOA Composer is in admin, and so Enterprise Manager is in admin server, okay, and SOA Composer is in managed server, okay. So this means this is completely specific to that domain, and it deals with all those which can be changed at runtime, okay. So like whether you take fault policies or you take DVMs, basically all or business rules, basically those things that could be changed at runtime, those files you modify it using the SOA Composer, okay. So you cannot modify these runtime in Enterprise Manager. Enterprise Manager is at an admin level, wherein you you have what do you say? You have control over all the managed servers, since it is only the admin server, and it is specific to Fusion middleware. Whereas Composer specializes in editing and redoing stuff for the individual projects within a domain. Okay, so maybe you can in simple words you can compare this as an edit tool for all the editable artifacts within your managed server. Okay. Whereas Enterprise Manager is all about like logging. I mean, if you want to check the logs, or if you want to control the services, or if you want to implement the security, or if you want to run the composites. So all those things is taken care by Enterprise Manager. Okay.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I usually show the composer when we do the business rules, because that is where we do all the dynamic editing. Okay. So we are done with the DVM, and then it has wasted at like almost 10 minutes because of the GA developer, but that's okay. So let's look at the next topic called exception handling. Okay, this is one of the important topics, because why exception handling? I won't go into the details because you all know why exception handling. Okay, so let's straight away jump into the topic of how we do exception handling. Okay, so basically you can do the exception handling at a scope level, okay, period, that's all. Like you do it at a scope level, whether you want to do it at a local scope or global scope, you have a choice. Okay, so when I do it, see, this is a global scope, right? So whole my entire BPEL will be within a scope. You know what is a scope? We've seen yesterday. So for a scope, you have two red marks here. If you see, one is catch and the other one is catch all. Okay, so catch is basically when I do a catch, when I click on that, see, I get a catch. So basically it catches a specific exception. Like if you want to handle remote fault in a way, then you will define a catch for a remote fault. Okay, you will select the remote fault, and then you say okay, and then you do all that you want to do, all that you want to implement within this. Okay, and similarly, let's say I want to have a different kind of fault handling for binding fault. So you add another catch fault, select the binding fault, and then you do all the handling, whatever you want to do in binding fault here. Okay, and let's say for all the rest of the faults, I want to handle it in a different way, just like catch and catch all in Java or in any SQL, in any language you have a catch and catch all, right? So for remote and binding, I have special instructions to handle, so I have defined it separately. But whereas for all the other expressions, I would have catch all. So catch all, you are not selecting anything, because it is basically whatever is not selected here, it would go into the catch all block and you would do. So even here, if you observe, so even this is nothing but a scope. Okay, so wherein you can have anything, like from a catch you can invoke, or you can assign, or you can literally do anything that you do in a BPEL process. Okay, so this is how you do exception handling. Okay, then do you always do the exception handling at the highest scope, at the global scope? Usually not. We usually do at the local scope also. Why? Let me tell you. So I'm just removing what I have created. Okay. Okay, so let's say this full name service is not really, let's say, okay. So in this case, what's happening is the BPEL control comes here and it splits into 3 different flows, right? Okay, fine. And then let's say this full name service is down for a moment. Okay, so when I invoke it, I get a remote fault, correct? So let's say this guy is down, so I get a remote fault. Okay, so if I have the exception handling at a global scope, what happens is like the whole thing stops and then the control goes here. Okay, control goes to the exception handling, then it comes to the requester who is requesting my service. Okay, but let's say my business logic is, so if something goes down, you do the exception handling only for that and then you continue. Okay, so let's say if my business use case is, if something goes wrong here, then you do some handling within this cell like here, and then you continue the process. Like don't stop the whole process, because the whole process is like very expensive process. I just don't want to stop it for unnecessary things. Okay, so in that case, what you do is, instead of defining the false or instead of defining the exception handling at the global level, you do it at the local level. So I told you, right, exception handling is done at the scope. Whether it is local or global is your choice. So in this case, so even this is a scope, so I would have a cache activity, and then I can define a remote fault here also. Okay, and say I'm doing some compensation here, say assign, for example, and then I'm done. Okay, so now what happens? So let's say this guy is again down. Okay, so my control comes here, it goes inside this, it goes inside this, and then it also comes here. Okay, now this is down. So what happens? Instead of here, like it will go here and continue, and then let's say I handle it properly, so it will come here. Okay, so once all the points merge here, what happens? The flow continues. Okay, so if I can handle this in an alternate way, then why to stop the whole process? I can do it this way, right? Correct. Okay, what if the department service is down here? If the department service is down, let's say this guy goes here and this guy full name service is down, so it comes via this. Let's say even the department is down. Okay, now what happens? Since this doesn't have any scope level exception handling, when it is down, it goes to the global level exception handling. Okay, meaning your entire process stops. Okay, that is the reason why wherever you anticipate that an exception might occur, you put that in a scope. So this is one other reason why you want to put scopes for different invocations. Okay, one thing is you're bundling it, but other than that, you are basically having a global to local variables for performance. And other than that, another reason why you want to have a scope is for exception handling. Okay, just because of one service is down, you don't want to like stop the whole process, because the process is like very big, very huge, right? So that is how we do it. Okay, so let's start doing this first. So okay, now this is a sequence, right? Yesterday I told you like there are two ways of bundling things. One is sequence and one is scope. You cannot define exception handling for sequences. Okay, because sequence is like a very lightweight boundary, right? Yesterday we understood. So if you want to have exception handling for a particular block, you have to put it in a scope. Okay, so you can just drag and drop a scope here and then drag and drop this sequence inside the scope, as simple as that. Okay, and I can remove this, but I don't want to do that. You can do it like
Ravi,
whenever you
that means what you're saying is always
yep.
Ravi.
Yeah, Pawan.
Yeah, so that means what you're saying, always all unhandled exceptions will go to the global, right?
Correct, exactly. Yes. If you're handling it explicitly, it comes to this. So wherever it can go, it goes. If it is not at the local level, it goes to the global level.
Okay.
Okay. So in this example, let's define exception handling only for this full name service. Okay. And then we'll kind of stop this service and see what happens. Okay. So how do I define? Or let us do one thing. Like let us first of all shut down the full name service and see what happens. What is this? Multi-select DB service, right? Okay. This is already deployed. fine. So what I will do is multi-select DB service. Where is that? DB read service, right? Let me undeploy the previous revision. Okay, I still have DB read service. I'll just check it for one time if it's working or not. Okay, perfect. My full name service is working. Now what I'll do is, now this is the full name service, right? DB read service here. I'll shut it down for a moment. Okay, so it's monitoring. DB read service. Why am I not getting?
Ravi, you have option of shutdown, right? There itself.
Where do I see that?
Just click on a batch, policy batch, and select one problem. Left side, domain side, domain.
Okay.
Click
Okay.
any
Yeah.
domain.
Shutdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at, the right click option. Okay. So I have this shutdown. So I have shut it down, and then okay, let me test it. So this time it fails, and the whole thing fails. So you get an exception. Okay, I'm not interested in this, but let me look at the flow trace. So if I look at the flow trace, like it stopped here, and since there is no cache, default cache that I have done, I mean it went to the default cache which is internal to it, and then it has thrown the exception to the caller. So that is the reason why I got the exception. Okay, so let's handle it in a different way. So you click on this one, okay, and say remote fault. Okay, and what is that I want to do? Okay, what is your full name doing actually? Like your full name, I mean, how are you using this output variable? It is the output variable, right? So let's see how are we using it. We are basically using it in our transformation. Okay, and basically we are assigning the full name and salary, right? Okay, so what we can do is, in this case, we can actually assign a dummy value of ourselves. Let's say that is a business logic. You actually, what you do in real cases is you put this to the human intervention. Like we will do that in the second part of the class when doing fault management framework. But now let's say let's do a dummy thing. Okay, so where is our full name output variable? Here it is, and then we'll basically hard code it. Okay, so full name, I would say the service faulted. I'm just actually we never do it this way. Okay, I'm just giving an example because we do in a way that I would explain next, and say okay. Okay, in this case what happens is whenever there is an issue here, okay, if it's down, it checks if there is a remote fault. If there is no specific remote fault, it goes to the catch-all. Okay, now there is a remote fault. Okay, it comes here, and then it has some those dummy assigns, and then it goes out. Okay, and finally in the final assign activity, like we are doing the assignments, right? So those dummy assigns would happen. So I would say this is dummy, or say exception handling. Okay, and it's always good to have a catch-all block also. And even in catch-all block, I would do the same thing, and I would say exception catch all, just to know that it is from catch all. And then let me do the same thing here. Full name output variable. Let's say full name is say catch all block, just to show you that it is catch all. And then it is salaries 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm good. So let us try to do it with the service. So let's see if this causes any other trouble. Otherwise, this text location and this text weather as an output. You're assigning this one. For each employee, you will have one employee, and then you have full name and salary. Okay. Let's deploy this one. .3. Okay, so here while deploying you might get an error or not. Why? Because we are using database, where is that full name service, right? Okay, when you're dragging and dropping it, let me do it again. Okay, so if you remember, like when you're dragging and dropping and now it is down, so okay, so it asks you this option like copy WSDL and these artifacts, like whether you want to do it or not. If you don't do it, what happens is while compiling, it will get the WSDL and XSDs from this service, and since it is down, you won't be able to deploy it. Okay, so if you copy it, then since they are in local only, while compiling, they get all the schema and WSDLs from the local and it gets deployed. So in our case, I guess we have locally copied it. We can check it here, multi-select. So we have locally copied it. So I think we don't get any deployment error. So let me do it. That is the reason why all the shared artifacts are put in MDS, so that you don't get any design time issues. Okay. So if you are talking to another service, you put that service WSDL in MDS and then get it through MDS.
Ravi, one quick question here. Meaning, you mean to say even it will not build also?
Exactly, it will not build also. Correct. Like do the simple thing.
Okay.
While doing this example, you don't download it. I mean, you don't copy it to your local, and then you close the BPEL and just try to open it. Or after the class, like
Good.
what we'll do is we'll just shut down the server and we'll try to open it. You cannot even open the composite XML. In our case, since we copied it, we will be able to open. But if you just refer to it, you will not be able to open it. Okay.
Okay. So basically, I am supporting some of the BPEL processes. Yeah, so actually some of the schemas are not loading. That is because of this only, I guess. So I have a big composite.
Okay.
So in that composite, what is happening is like, we are calling multiple web services. So I think one of the web services is down. Because of that, that whole composite itself is not building.
Okay, it will clearly tell you like unable to fetch so-and-so XSD or unable to fetch so-and-so WSDL. So by that, you can directly put it in the browser and see if it is down or not.
Okay, okay, no problem.
Okay, so it's done. Let's look at employee BPEL 1.3. Okay, what did we do? We just did a dummy assign. Basically, in other words, we did a exception handling inline. Okay, and if you see full name, like it checked the alternate path. Okay, and it went to the catch block, like the remote fault catch. Okay, so if you want to look at the launch flow trace, so even when it failed, it is actually recovered because we did the exception handling. Otherwise, it would have been a fault. Okay, so here it is faulted. Okay, and you have the fault. It clearly gives you it is a remote exception. Okay, and it clearly tells you, like it gives you other options like go there and then you switch it on and so, and it went to the catch remote fault block. Okay, exception handling. So this is the name that we have given it. This is the reason why you need to give proper names so that you will know where it went, where the control went. Okay, so it went into this and then the whole thing continued. So now you know, now you understood how to handle it locally, right? Any questions here? Okay. So this is very simple, as simple, similar to any other programming language. But now let's look at something that is really helpful. That really makes Oracle Server Suite different from others, and that is called fault management framework. Okay. So let us look at the different problems that we'll have with this kind of approach. Okay, wherein we are doing it inline. What is the number one issue? Number one issue is all the fault handling code is within the composite, right? So if there's any change, like you need to edit the actual implementation. Okay. So first thing is, let's say tomorrow I want to handle it in a different way. Okay. So I'll have to come to the source code, redo it, and do stuff. Now you might think like, now anyways we'll have to do it, right? But it's not the case. Let's say you deploy the composite, like after the production release, after like 2 months, it goes to the support team, right? Now support team might not have access to the code, or they don't have the privileges to modify the code by themselves, or they may not even have the skill to do it, like they are admins, right? So one thing is to do in the code, like they won't be able to do it. It again comes to the developer, and let's say the developer has resigned, a new developer has come, so he has to go through the entire thing and then figure out and then redo the stuff. That's one thing. That's one of the problems, wherein BPEL process actually should care about your business logic. Exception handling is the second part, right? Which you are basically handling so that your composite works fine. And what is the second one? Let's say there is a full name invocation here, and there is another, let's say this is also a full name invocation, or let's say you're invoking another service, and your business requirement is for remote fault you want to handle it in a specific way, in say condition A, or say action A is the way you handle a remote fault here. And similarly for this invocation also, if it fails, you want to handle the same way. Okay, so what you are doing, like since they are at two different places, you are basically duplicating the code, like you are doing the same stuff in two places, right? So kind of duplication. You don't have a single control, kind of duplication, correct, of error handling, or I would say no reuse. This would be the correct word to do it. Okay, so these two are different things. These two are the issues that we have having it inline. Okay, and then okay, you want to do something like this. Let's say this full name service is kind of a very highly available service. Okay, like it goes down very rarely. It's 99.99% up. Okay, just in case, I mean, you might invoke it exactly at the point it was down for a second, then you get an exception. But if you redo it, it might be up and running. Okay, so if you are doing this way, like you don't have an option to retry it. Like once it comes to the remote fault, it won't go back to the scope. Like it basically traverses out, right? So if you want to retry this one, you don't have that option in your inline handling, right? Say you kind of retry the invocation, not possible. Only way it is possible is you want to put that invoke activity, the same invoke activity in your exception handling also, and do it. And let's say you want to, let's say the SLA for this is you retry it for 4 times, and if it doesn't happen, only then you really think that it is down. Okay, then how many times, like would you put the same invoke activity 4 times? It doesn't make sense, right? So retries wouldn't make. And sometimes it might be a case wherein when something is down, okay, you don't want to proceed, but at the same time you don't want to stop the whole process. Like just wait at this point, okay, and wait till this thing comes up and then continue. Why you want to do it? Let's say the whole process takes like 40 minutes. You're already done with 30 minutes, and then because of one damn service, I just don't want to waste all the resources. Okay, so I just want to wait till here, till the service is up, and then I want to continue. Okay, so even that you don't have, like when it is down, like you will get a notification, and then you'll call the admin or you'll call the service owner and say, hey guy, your service is down. So he'll make it up and he'll give you a phone call, and then you can start your service. So such kind of thing is also not there. So I would say stop and resume is also not possible. So these are the various things, very common things that that the inline exception handling doesn't do. Okay, there is another one also that inline exception handling doesn't do. Okay, let me show you. Now this one, let's say there is another invoke activity also. Okay, and let's say this particular scope has 3 invoke activities, and all 3 always have to be done as a unit. Okay, so it is not that if this goes down, okay, there is an alternate path and again you start from here. Like if this goes down, again you have to start from first. Like you want to replay the whole scope, or you want to retry the whole scope. So even such thing cannot be done with our inline handling. So for these kind of things, Oracle SOA Suite has given us a concept called fault management framework. Okay, so for all these kind of things, fault management framework comes to the rescue. This is Oracle SOA Suite's proprietary concept. Okay, so you don't find it in other SOA tools. And what is this fault management framework? So this is kind of a framework wherein it takes care of all your fault handling, but it doesn't even touch your code. It just takes care by using 2 XML files which are external to your composite. Okay, these external files could be in your MDS or it could be literally anywhere. Just by using 2 files called fault policy and fault bindings, you actually have a control on your entire composite. Like let's say I want to do some special handling for a particular thing. Yes, you do it with this file. Like you don't even touch your composite. Let's say a full name service is down. You want to retry it for 4 times before you want to stop it. Like you just do some stuff in these 2 files and then you get that option. Like you don't even have to touch the code. Okay. So this one we will. This takes like a while, about 40 minutes to actually explain you the concept. But doing thing is like it's just a 5-minute stuff. So we will do it in the next session. I thought of doing it today, but since we lost some time in the DVM stuff, let's do it tomorrow. Okay, and please don't miss this session, because interview wise, fault management framework, adapters, and BPEL, or specifically the DB adapter and BPEL, these are the main concepts people concentrate on. So try to attend this session, fault management framework. That's all for today. So any questions?